All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. My name is Joe Stapp. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at Talley Management Group. TMG is a 33-year-old association management company. We serve over 30 different associations as a full-service management partner, but we also provide a range of other consulting services in the form of hybrid management, meetings and events, and other consulting services. And we're excited to welcome you here for our second webinar in our summer series. I've got a couple colleagues with us that are going to be joining me, and I'll let them introduce themselves. Tim?
Yeah, my name is Tim Bauer. I am the Director of Association Solution Consulting at TMG. And what we're going to talk about today is a hybrid management model for associations and how it may benefit your organization. And we'll touch on some key functional areas. We'll share some information on things that, even if it's not with a consultant or an outsourced organization, things that all of you should be looking at. We have Nim joining us as well. Nim, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Joe. My name is Nim Lalvani, and I'm Executive Director at Talley Management Group. I particularly work with organizations that are public-facing and deal in the world of fundraising and working with patients and community partners. Really excited to tell you a little bit more about how we offer these services and the things that we do to amplify your mission.
Great. So this is a quote that just kind of jumps out, I think, especially facing what we're looking at today. We can't solve problems using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. And I think, especially in this time of change amidst the COVID-19 situation we're all facing, it really requires some new thinking on how we do things. So with that, we'll just jump right into the presentation. We're going to go through a few key areas here regarding functions and services. The first one is strategic planning. And with this, it's really a why, when, where, and how question. With COVID, the most important thing is, even if you just did a strategic plan in January or February of 2020, that strategic plan is pretty much out the window with everything that has occurred over the last 4 to 6 months. So what you really need to look at is the plan still relevant? Do you just need to potentially review it and maybe make some changes, and whether it be the products or the services that you're offering your members or your organizations? You want to look at whether an entire new strategic plan it needs to be done. Have the recent changes in the world we're living in, have they impacted your mission or vision at all, and really structurally force you to change? And then you really need to look at how you're going to do that strategic planning session. One of the things that we're looking at doing with a number of clients is the days of meeting for a day and a half in a hotel or a conference center together have disappeared, at least probably through the first quarter of 2021. You still need to have that plan. So how can you structure it through multiple sessions, a few hours each session, in order to still accomplish the goals and put your organization on the right path that you need to go?
Thanks, Tim. So I'm going to speak a little bit about marketing and communications. And as we know, as we enter the virtual world through COVID-19, marketing and communications is more important now than ever. And we, as organizations, you may have had already a communications plan in place and a marketing plan in place, but now you may be learning that content is the #1 way that as an organization you can, toot your own horn, talk about your accomplishments, but it may be confusing about what the right way to do that. What are the touch points with your stakeholders, and how often and how frequent should you be scheduling your communications? And so from a Talley perspective, we have a full team of marketing professionals, as well as our executive directors and leadership, that really think about our stakeholders and members connected to our organization. Think about content that is engaging. How do you want to communicate to your stakeholders, to your members, or in the cases of foundations, how do you want to communicate to the community that you're trying to reach? And so content is much more than putting information out to your audience in a way that you think feels right. It's about social listening. It's about learning what they're interested in, as well as what's important to your mission and organization. It's also extremely important to think about scheduling and what events are happening in your particular industry that may need amplification. Also aligning with your organization's current events. Do you have virtual meetings that are coming up? Are you conducting new webinars? Are you shifting from a in-person meeting to a virtual meeting, and so you need to communicate that in a different way? Also, what initiatives are new? What initiatives have existed that you want to bring back to the forefront because it may be relevant again to your stakeholders? And also, what's going on in the world around you? It's a really key important step to your communication plan because you want to be able to link your mission to the world around you so your stakeholders understand that you are listening and watching what's happening and communicating in a way that makes sense. There's also a variety of ways that you can automate this process. So you may not need a dedicated person to be posting every single day or 24 hours around the clock. And so the tools and platforms that Talley can recommend that would make this system easier for your organization, and also lessens that learning curve to ensure that you're putting out communication at a regular schedule. And maybe posting every single day for your organization may not be effective, but may be effective for another organization. And so we would really take a look at how that works for your stakeholders and be able to make the right recommendations. Finally, I do want to highlight that coming up in September, we'll have our marketing director speak fully on marketing skill sets that Talley offers. And so I'd really encourage you to join that webinar to get a bit more in-depth detail around that.
Great, thanks, Nim. Welcome, everybody. Again, my name is Joe Sapp, and to talk a little bit about virtual and meeting and event management, you know, for our 33 years, we've managed events all over the world. Large and small, our largest being up to 70,000 attendees. And, you know, that has changed quickly this year. And that's one area that we made a decision to pivot to and to really bolster our team with a newly created digital event strategist position in Derek Johnson. If you joined us for our last webinar, that's what we focused on, the discussion around virtual events and the strategy there. And, you know, as we look to the future and where we're taking our clients, both our full service clients, but also the organizations that are contracting our team just to deliver on specific events, we're taking a strategic view of it. We created a virtual event audit that Derek has been using with several organizations to really understand what's the long-term strategy, what's the engagement that we're trying to get here, both in a response to COVID, but the long-term view of this. And, you know, the other things that we've been looking at are the delivery methods. And a lot of this has been a reaction to the immediate need to shift from an in-person meeting to a virtual. But a smart organization is going to take a long-term view of that. How are we going to invest in platforms and staff and contractors that are going to benefit us over the next several years, not just the immediate need? And that's one thing where we can bring that expertise that we have in-house. And that goes into the content and schedule as well. It's one thing to try and replicate your in-person meeting and just say, we're going to record everything, we're going to put it online. But that doesn't work the same way. You need a real strategy about how you're going to convert that content, that engagement, how you work with sponsors into a virtual platform. And that's where we bring that expertise. We've converted nearly a dozen in-person meetings to virtual over the last couple of months. And, you know, we're looking to the future of Q3 and Q4 of 2020 and what we're going to do there. And also into 21 about, are these going to be hybrid events? Are they going to be back to fully virtual? So that's, you know, where we can help is to provide that strategic guidance, but also the implementation of how we're going to get through this and implement a new way of meeting and delivering content to our stakeholders.
Thanks, Joe. And I just wanted to add, if there are any questions during this presentation, you do not need to wait until the end to ask. Please feel free to go into the chat area, type any questions, and Joe will bring them up as they are as they come in. One area that we're all going to have to look at as organizations is financial management. And this is an area where TMG, I think, really shines in effect, the financial management this year and into next is going to be very difficult. We're all facing potentially reduced membership, a different, very different looking meeting with the different expense and revenue categories, and then very different industry support depending on how the industries within your organization or that support your organization, how they're doing during this pandemic. So you really need to look at all those revenue and expense categories. You really need to do really good cash flow forecasting and see where you're going to end this next year, but also as you budget, what the impact on that is going to be of current years. And you really need to have a good idea as to where your net assets are, and not just your cash, but do you have a board, do you have any board designated funds? What does it take to access that? When budgeting for the next fiscal year, you really want to make sure you look at where can you reduce expenses, where can you shift work, but also where are the opportunities for some increased revenue by thinking differently, creating different sponsorship packages, maybe not centered around your annual meeting, but maybe centered around the entire year and how they can support webinars and your website and specific projects. So I think those are very important. And I think really where TMG shines is in the separation of duties. You have various people doing different functions, and that really follows best practices. The other area where we really shine is in facilitating an audit, which really provides you, much like your strategic plan, it can provide you with a map for the future in your financial management.
So I'm going to speak a little bit about foundations and public campaigns, and specifically the power of campaigns and what that brings to public-facing organizations. So public-facing and community-facing organizations, such as foundations, are in a unique position in the way that they have stakeholders and large communities that they can reach through their efforts and their mission. However, with that large opportunity and stakeholders, it can often be challenging on how to engage that audience consistently, strategically, and in a way that's uniform. So one opportunity that could present a unique way of reaching that audience is through a campaign. And campaigns are really an opportunity for your organization to speak with a uniformed voice, to engage your target audience, to encourage increased fundraising, and to also align stakeholders with your mission so that they're more inspired to act on behalf of your mission of your organization. And so another opportunity through forging, whether it's a national, regional, or international campaign for your mission and your organization, is that it gives you the opportunity to unify partnerships with mission-similar organizations. And so in a way that makes sense for your organization, when you're forging these partnerships, you're influencing the community and the industry that you're operating in. And so you become the brand leader for that organization in that space. Right? And so everyone is speaking with the same voice. They're looking to your organization as the leader in the space, which then turns into increased fundraising, increased dollars, increased sponsorships, because you then become the go-to organization that other industries and mission-similar organizations say that you're the credible voice in the space. And all of this is done through the power of campaigns. Now, campaigns are traditionally viewed as awareness and raising awareness for particular issues. And while that's still true, there are lots of ways to make campaigns evergreen. And one of the ways you do that is to make a campaign part of your brand and image of your organization. And when you do that, you create programs and initiatives that align with the goals of your campaign. So you're taking your stakeholders on a journey that is mission aligned with your organization. They're associating the campaign with your organization, and eventually you see a conversion of those individuals who are engaged with you, who then become donors and volunteers and strengthen your organization just through that effort of the campaign. The other piece that's tied to this is campaigns, as I said, provide an opportunity for fundraising. And so as you build trust with the audience that you've engaged with your messaging and through your campaign efforts and initiatives, you can start to ask those same target audience to fundraise on your behalf. Whether that's grassroots fundraising, where they're asking the community around them to donate to your organization, or it's donating in kind, whether it's volunteer time, or goods that your organization may need to get from one location in order to deliver to another location as part of your mission. And so it's really interesting in the time of COVID how this works out in the virtual world. So when you set up the appropriate campaign in the digital space, you'd be well ahead of yourself to influence individuals to donate on your behalf, right? Because you're connecting with them through your website, through your social media channels, as well as through email marketing campaigns. And so you're already priming your audience to get used to your voice and your message and your brand. You can continue to work with them to get a message out to donate to your organization. Now more than ever through COVID, you're going to want to step up those communication efforts. You're going to want to reach out specifically to your existing donors and explain the situation that your organization is in, remind them of the mission of the organization, as well as the message of your campaign to inspire them and continue to engage them with your organization.
You know, talking about technology, this is something I like to dive into. And, you know, even before we faced work from home and virtual events, technology was already creeping up as one of the main ways that you engage with your members. And that's going to continue to do so, perhaps at a more accelerated pace now that we're forced to operate in a more virtual format. But, you know, some of these points I want to make are important for all organizations, but are areas where, you know, we excel as a company, where you can find some savings and some efficiencies in productivity gains just by the way we operate as a company. You know, the first one there, make your investments count. Both the association and your AMC are investing in technology, and that's something that we've really made central to our strategy, is investing in the right technologies and things we've done, like integrations between our AMS platforms and our accounting platforms to make sure that they're talking, and other integrations between different systems that are in use every single day. And, you know, there's investments to make life easier for members, so when they log in, it's seamless, or integrations that make life easier for the administrative side and make it easier to run an organization. You know, when you're considering your options as an organization, your investment in an AMC, finding the right partner, that's an investment to the future, and making sure that you're understanding what the organization you partner with is investing in on technology and software that's going to make your association run better, and do it for less money. You know, and taking time to do a long-term assessment. And I know I mentioned that earlier, and I might mention it again, but it's really important to not take a really narrow view of what's happening now, and to not widen that view and understand what these decisions you make now about who you partner with, what technologies you use or they use, are going to impact the future. And, you know, you look at what we're doing with virtual events, and whether that's a sunk cost, whether you're just putting money into a one-time virtual event, or if you're putting money into a platform that you know you can use next year, that you can continually engage your members and stakeholders with. And that's where we're focusing our time and effort as a company, to make sure that we can do that for clients that want to have that opportunity. And, you know, to take a whole society approach, that's another area that I think is really important. And that means understanding, when you are making these investments in technology, how it impacts other areas of your organization. Most groups have always been doing a webinar program. And if you're going to continue to do that, how does that impact what you're doing now with virtual events? And does that cannibalize what you're trying to do with your now hybrid annual meeting? So making sure when you take those decisions about technology that you are taking a wide view, not just a long-term view, but a wide view of the society and where those impacts are going to be. And then lastly, using the right vendors, understanding that there is different sets of expertise out there, understanding what your strategic goals are, and align those with the vendors you're going to use, especially when you're talking about technology, and understanding if you're going to be boxed into X technology, but Y technology is really what's best for your organization. And you know, those are the really important things, and the things that we think about as a company when we look at partners ourselves. and what we're going to use for our clients. And I think they're all important questions, not just for us, but for your associations and what you're going to be looking to do as a group.
Exactly right, Joe and Tim. Both of you have mentioned, now is the right opportunity to be looking at your strategic plan, looking at your technology and your staffing and vendors, because auditing and reviewing is a natural part of running an organization. Where we are with COVID-19 and the pandemic and everything that's happening, now is the right time to really take a look at your existing programs and how you've traditionally audited and reviewed them for success, right? Because when we develop programs as an organization to meet the need of your members or key stakeholders, you lack sometimes the tools and resources to pause and take a look, evaluate, and truly measure if the programs that you're setting out to deliver are meeting the benchmarks that you've identified from the onset, right? And so if we're not taking the time to pause, review, and audit, then we're delivering programs that may be causing the organization to spend time, money, resources that's unnecessary. And I think TMG has a great structure where we often, as an organization, sit down and analyze what organizations are doing and associations are doing to ensure we're bringing the most value to our clients and saying, are you taking the time to review your programs? Are you maximizing the budget for the fundraising that you've brought for this program specifically? And is the program delivering on the goals that you set out to deliver with the program? But when you're doing the successful audit and the review and the benchmarking, you then have programs that are not only evergreen and sustainable, but you become more attractive to sponsors because they see you as a reliable partner that's going to deliver a program that's making impact, number one, and that you have credibility to say, here's what we set out to do, here's how we benchmark, here's what we did to audit and reevaluate, and here's the reach that we had and the impact that we had through this program. So I think Talley really brings this unique perspective that many organizations who are either understaffed or under-resourced, Talley can bring the skill set necessary to take the time, look at the programs, and make the appropriate recommendations on how to best deliver programs. And maybe it means cutting back on a few and putting more resources into others so you can really see that ROI.
Thank you, Nem. Yeah, so really the question becomes, we covered a lot of different topics, a lot of different subject areas. I think there was a common theme throughout this, and this really is, what does this mean for associations? Right now, it's about engagement, whether it be with your members, your industry supporters, reviewing everything, how you've done business, how your programs are doing, what technology are you using? Is it time to sunset some items, and is it time to reinvigorate other items that you may not have used for quite some time? And Joe touched on the technology, but I think it goes across all the areas. Who is the right partner for the various components and tasks, whether it be a financial audit, a program audit, creation of programs, and moving to a virtual event. And the wonderful thing about outsourcing is it frees up your staff many times to do what they are passionate about, whether that be content development, whether that be working with your members and your industry supporters, and then to bring that into a qualified company that does have all the components necessary to do one thing, such as strategic planning or financial management, or a suite of things, financial management, program review audits, and then looking at your technology. It really is about finding the right partner. And again, this is going to be a year of questioning everything we need to do, changing the way we think, and really driving change, and all of us being industry leaders within our own association space.
Tim, I'll add on there just around, TMG is a full service company, but just like every other organization out there, we're looking at how we do business, who our partners are, and what they're delivering to us as services. And being an executive director for an association of ours, I'm doing the same thing, understanding what services we're getting where, and just as we deliver a full service approach to most all of our clients, we have that other level of providing that direct service to address some of these specific issues that may need more attention or a different type of service and delivery as we look into the next year where there's just uncertainty.
Yeah, and Joe, that's a good point, because even in our financial services division, some folks just engage us for some forecasting and doing some cash flow analysis. Others utilize us to do all of their financial services, where they don't even have an accounting department any longer. And if it is, maybe it's one person leading that and us doing the bookkeeping and the major functions. I think you did touch on one other thing there, Joe, which I just want to elaborate on. This isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. Among our 30-plus clients, who most have moved to virtual events at this point, whether it be annual meetings or webinars, we find the right technology partner or service partner for that client. Not everybody needs the most expensive solution, but sometimes the least expensive solution doesn't do what it's needed to develop that quality product for your membership. So yeah, thank you for that, Joe. So with that, we are going to try to keep it to about a half an hour, 35 minutes. Happy to take any questions directly on any of those functional areas and how maybe we could provide advice to any of you on how you can move forward, or if there are any questions about TMG or the services, we'd be happy to take those as well.
Yeah, I've got some questions here. The first one is, around the cost structure of that kind of program review. That's a great question, and it really depends on what that review is going to look like. If this is an audit of an event or an audit of some other type of program, that's a project that we typically do and can build out a specific program about how we do that. And no different than strategic planning, there's pre-work and actually sitting down and doing a review of that. So that's something we can follow up on offline as we move out of this meeting. But another question that came in, Tim, this is probably best answered by you, but how does an organization that has existing staff, what can they expect to partner with an AMC where they're going to get the select services? How does that interaction work if we're going to actually retain staff but also engage an AMC to provide some specific services?
No, exactly. And partnering with an AMC or another service partner does not mean you have to take away your staff. Many times we would supplement that staff. You may have your CFO within your organization, and then another high-level person working with the individual departments or revenue centers. And again, we can do that back-end financial work, create the reports, create the forecasting. And the benefit of that is twofold. First of all, it takes away some of that work that might be bogging down your staff and takes it off to another company. The second thing is now your CFO has another very qualified team to bounce ideas off of from a financial standing. So it really, we do have some folks that their entire organization uses our financial services department, and we are in effect the finance department. We have others that we partner with and may have someone in-house where we provide the back office support. So it really is dependent on what your needs are and what will best help you achieve your mission and your goals. And that's where we come to it from. We don't sell you more service than you need, but we want to make sure we can do everything we can to help you achieve your mission and your goals, and for your internal staff to focus on those mission and goals.
Yeah. And, I'll just add in there too that, every organization we work with comes in with a leadership team, and, some of them are more active on the operations side. And I think that's where we can point to our experience over the 33 years of, we integrate into those leadership structures with the volunteers, understanding that they've got different priorities, just like your staff would have different priorities. if we were to interface directly with them. So we understand what that looks like, how those interactions happen, and understand that it is your society, it's your organization. We're here to fulfill a specific duty to advance the organization. And you know, we all realize that we're here for one purpose, to advance the mission of that organization. And that's what our team does. And we'll interface with, you know, the staff or the volunteers to best do that.
Yeah.
So other questions that I see, let's see, I think this one's best for Nim. How do you see the next year and a half in terms of, you know, organizations that are obviously going to be aggressive in trying to secure fundraising, to secure their own budgets, but do you see that there's still opportunity for funders out there to connect those that are trying to fundraise and funders that have opportunity for 21, or do you think that it's going to be a slower recovery until they can get?
It's a really good question, and something that I think everyone is thinking about in a variety of ways. And I think Tim said it best earlier, is now is the time to really look at your strategic plan and how do you adjust and sunset certain opportunities, and also amp up your communication, right? Looking at your mission, looking at your existing programs, and perhaps tweaking them in a way that seems more relevant and more tailored and more realistic for funders to say, you know what, this is still really a priority in our industry despite the pandemic, and we want to make sure that we're connecting with your organization, number one. Number two, I think though the competition and resources may be affected in the grand scheme of things, you have to take a look at what's happening and the trends in your specific industry that your organization is operating in, right? And so whether you're in the healthcare industry, as an example, there's significant impact that's happening because of COVID-19. Maybe it's time to develop educational tools and resources that may be a bit more tailored to what's happening in the current climate and healthcare climate. And if you're outside of the healthcare space, then how do you look at the world and the climate around you and also continue to amplify your benefit to your association members and communicate that to your funders? The key opportunity is connecting the benefit of what you're already doing to the funders and ensuring you're communicating that you're keeping up with the times by delivering education in a way that makes sense, delivering programs in a way that are virtual, and also amping up your communications to your stakeholders, because when you can demonstrate your reach and impact, funders are more likely to connect with your mission and support you.
Yep.
Yeah, and Nim, if I can just add to that, I think the other component is looking at the pandemic and seeing what opportunities might be out there because of the pandemic and re-engaging with your members. As sad as it is, for some organizations, this pandemic has actually created opportunities to re-engage with their members in a more frequent and more organic manner. One of the clients I work most directly with, we are doing a webinar series now with our members, which is something they would have never done if it wasn't for the need to move to a virtual annual meeting and for the need their healthcare. There is so much good, timely information out there that COVID makes it more necessary to put a webinar together and get it out in a week and a half than it ever did when, I'll say, their industry was more stagnant with less change.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah. So I don't see any more questions. I'll give it another few seconds here if anyone has any questions. You know, otherwise, I will say thank you to Tim and Nim for participating, and also to all of our attendees as well. You know, if you don't have a question now, but one comes up after you walk away, feel free to, you know, use this contact information, send us an email, give me a call. I'd be happy to discuss any of those questions that may come up. And we'll also be posting this recording on our website soon. We've got past webinar recordings up there, and we've also got some future webinars that are scheduled over the next couple of weeks here that we hope you come back for as we dive into some other topics as well. So thank you again. Hope you have a good rest of your day, good rest of your week. Thanks, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.